Hello everyone, today I am looking at Silent Hill, the original. I have a confession to make, is that I did not play this game until it was the last one in the series that I had not touched. And the reason for that is really that it was like, oh, it's old, it has weird bitty graphics, it is very choppy, edgy. Like, there's no way this game is going to be as interesting and as immersive as its sequels. And I have to tell you, I am dead wrong. This might actually be my favorite Silent Hill of the series. 2 is kind of like like a side story where it has really nothing to do with this game at all, while 3 is a direct sequel to this game. I just feel so stupid because I literally refuse to play this game because of the graphics. And I've been someone who's always said, old games, despite all the things, despite everything, have, better integrity, better art design, better style if they are classics. And there's no reason for me to discount a game because of how it looks, but this is the one game where I refused to play it for a very long time because of how it looked. And it is the boldest bad decision I've ever made, because literally it's one of my favorite ones in the series. It's also, I would say, arguably the scariest Silent Hill, simply because it is so hard to tell what you're looking at sometimes, and the sound design is still essentially modern and not, compressed a lot, that you get a lot of very intense moments and scenes where you're not sure exactly what's going on, what's going to happen next. There's rooms you go into and they're completely silent, and rooms where suddenly you have the sound of shattering glass. The draw distance, which was like a mechanical limitation of the game, works so well in this context because you can barely see in front of you, and has become iconic of the Silent Hill setup. Also, implementations of things like, the iconic sirens and things like that. Apparently, I'm not sure if you know this, but apparently I heard that the original Silent Hill is based on a real place somewhere in Pennsylvania, which was an old coal mine that essentially they had this mining shaft where like someone accidentally lit a fire, and now there's this eternal flame that's just burning for like the rest of time, and they can't put it out. It's impossible. And so the whole town has been closed off, and there's weird fissures in the ground, and that's very much exactly what like this game is. Apparently it's kind of an unofficial tourist spot, but only if you're absolutely crazy, and because it's all been barred off and everything. So what is the essence of Silent Hill? Well, you play as James Mason? No, James Sunderland. Harry Mason. Yeah, you play as Harry Mason, who essentially is driving, on the highway with his daughter, and he sees something on the road, swerves his car, gets into an accident, and when he wakes up, he can't find his daughter, goes looking for her into this town, which is called Silent Hill. And suddenly the world around him begins to change and warp and turn into this other world, which is in the game lore literally called the Other World. And so suddenly you are filled with these nightmares and horrific images, and Harry's world begins to fall apart. And he also begins to be attacked by other weird creatures and things in the environment. Silent Hill is psychological horror, and it is a survival horror gameplay mechanic. You have a limited amount of bullets for the different guns you get. You mainly use a lead pipe to fend off most enemies. And basically you kind of go from area to area trying to, find out the reason for all of this stuff going on. So yeah, you have things where you go around the map, from the very beginning you realize, oh no, tank controls, the controls are crappy by design so that you feel like you're not totally in control of the character to make it more scary, similar to like the older Resident Evil games where you can barely aim properly. And it's very hard to aim and give you limited ammo and all that stuff. And so basically Harry will run around the environment picking up health items, ammo, sparingly for his weapons. You do get a decent amount of weapons in this game, from a pistol, shotgun, and finally like a rifle, which is very powerful. And once you beat the game, you actually get a ridiculous unlock, which is either a choice between a chainsaw and a jackhammer, which runs on gasoline. Just a crazy thing that designs the game for multiple playthroughs, which is actually very intentional in this one, which I'll get to that in a sec. Throughout the game, though, you're not by yourself. Harry will come into contact with other characters, such as Sybil, the police officer, and Kaufman, the businessman, and other characters throughout the story. What's very interesting is everyone kind of acts aloof and like they don't really know what's going on, and they feel like they're almost in a dream world. And that's what I really like about Silent Hill. It really struggles with this idea that, you know, you might already be dead, and this is kind of like the afterlife or your punishment, or you're searching for the reason for your death and your absolution. And so that's kind of why this game has become so popular, because of that concept. And again, I really like this one almost more than Silent Hill 2, because Silent Hill 2, it kind of gets to the point where you just know it's all in his head and this is some weird fantasy reality thing. But in this game, that layer is really kind of divided. Is not very divided. In that, you know, there is also the old church woman who is using this, you know, seal of Metatron to essentially summon or seal away the demons. And you know, there's also this other girl called Alyssa, which looks exactly like Cheryl. So it's kind of like believable that there's some evil secret cult that's summoning these monsters into the world. And it's almost believable, but it might also all be in your head. And you just don't have a very clear and good answer until maybe the end of the game. Which I think is just a really cool concept to have. And the entire concept of Silent Hill is that it's this place where your consciousness and your internal mind is projected onto the real world, and the real world will change into your mental state and your unresolved issues of grief or loss or inadequacies and whatever. And it's just sort of a very cool, interesting concept. I'm pretty sure this is official, that it's based on the movie Jacob's Ladder, where this guy has all this war trauma from the Vietnam War, I believe. And so his world begins shaping and twisting, and you're never really sure what's in his head and what's real. And it's this very interesting thing where he has to kind of have this absolution. It's also very interesting that what happens at the beginning of this game is you get a radio, which is the most annoying sounding thing, because it doesn't sound like a radio. It sounds like literally a ringing telephone whenever enemies are nearby, and that's how you can tell. Something that also really took me aback is from all the cutscenes and issues and videos I've seen of Silent Hill. The last thing I expected to see as the first enemy type in this game is a flying pterodactyl, but that's exactly what you get, and I'm just like, okay, sure, whatever, guys. Yeah. Harry also gets a series of different kinds of melee weapons throughout the game. My favorite one is actually the emergency hammer at the end of the game, because it just simply is stupidly powerful, and everything you hit, it just gives a nice meaty whack to it. It's almost comical, really. And it really is good at defeating downed enemies. And the gameplay itself is really kind of passable. It's not the main aspect. The gameplay is there to make sure you just don't die. This is not an action game whatsoever. But yeah, I really hate the radio in this game, to the point where I just turn it off at certain points, because I just don't want to hear the sound of a phone ringing. It was just something very kind of I don't know, unprofessional might be the right word. You also have a very limited inventory. What I do like about this game is that it has all the iconic Silent Hill sound effects that we've come to know the series for, when you select an item or heal yourself or otherwise. There's a lot of different things. Again, it's very interesting throughout the course of the game. What will happen is you'll go to the other world, come back kind of to the more real world, and talk to a human being and realize, oh, okay, they actually are real, and then you'll begin to slowly descend back into the other world. Something I do need to say about this game, because it is such a simple thing, And it is so innovative and smart and well done. I don't know why anyone else has done it, which is dynamic maps. So a lot in this game, you will have certain areas you could go to, and then suddenly they're sealed off. Or you have the official map of Silent Hill, but as you start exploring it, there are certain fissures in the ground, maybe things are blocked off, and obviously the other world, which is not congruent to the map, Harry starts automatically marking things on the map. So if there's a giant fissure in the middle of the road for some godforsaken reason, there's a giant X there on the map automatically. Harry doesn't say anything. The map just automatically updates as soon as you hit that area, which I think is just the coolest thing. Again, I would say this game is definitely one of the scarier Silent Hills, especially I would say the elementary school, and other areas, especially when it becomes night. I think it's scary enough with fog during the day and these monsters running around, but when it becomes nighttime and they have this kind of like weird breathing sound effect in the music, it gets very, very unsettling. And none of the other Silent Hill games have really captured this feeling of being in this town where there is no one around, and you are just confronted with all these incredibly strange things happening that you don't know if they're real or not. And I just find that to be a fascinating scenario. Again, what's also very cool is, again, there's a lot more lore as to exactly what is going on. What is the cult trying to do? Who is Alyssa? What are they trying to create here? Oh my god, though, I need to get this off my chest, though, because there's one scene where it's very near the very end of the game where they're talking about the real lore of Alyssa and her origins and what the cult is trying to do and what they're trying to resurrect. And the doctors are all around her bedside, saying, all of these things about, what they have to do and how they have to take care of her. And the doctors in this cutscene sound like they're South Park characters. They sound like Eric Cartman. It's so ridiculous. Like, I'm trying not to laugh, but he's like, we must do the procedure properly if she is to survive. Like, just like, what is this? What is this jank? Obviously, Silent Hill is very, proud of its CG cutscenes in this early kind of technology stage. So the fact they could render almost lifelike 3D faces was a big thing. So even in the credits of the game, they have this kind of collage where they pretend it's a movie, and all of the characters kind of have these weird little blooper scenes that are fully CG cutscenes, as if it was a movie. And I find that to be very kind of charming and fun and cute, and they're messing around. A lot of this game established a lot of the core tenets that would go forward for the Silent Hill series, like, the school, the hospital. I mean, the hospital, really, that's the main one, with the nurses, other areas, and how you could be walking through the environment and suddenly it'll slowly start transforming. That's really more of a Silent Hill 2 kind of thing, rather in this game. Everything already is very kind of effed up and, ruined from the start. Some of the enemies you'll find in this game are, again, like I said, pterodactyls, bloody dogs, hominoid type creatures. And again, the lore is very interesting with, what Alyssa's trying to accomplish, what her seals are she's putting around the town, and how the other character is actually lying about what the seals actually represent, and you removing them is actually helping the demons, because the seals are actually of an angel, not a demon. And then you have to fight the final boss, and oh my god, the story in this game is actually one of the strongest in the entire series. It's very, very interesting, where it's not just a character study, there's actual lore, and it's very, very interesting. That being said, I do need to talk about the ending to this game. It's very, very frustrating and very out of the blue that this game has multiple endings, including like, bad minus, normal, bad, normal, good, and good plus. So there's like 4 different endings. And in Silent Hill 2, when it would, give you an ending depending on your playstyle, this one you have to know to do certain objectives that are very just, like, I would have no idea unless I had a guide to know these things, frankly. Like, there's a certain item you need to pick up, and you need to know how to give it to the right person, and then there's a certain character you need to save in order to get the real final boss. And it was really, really interesting because when I did get the final boss, originally when I got the first ending, you fight Samael, and you kind of have the bad ending where they kind of don't make it out alive. And I thought, oh, that's bullcrap. What, I have to do this all over again? And the answer is, well, basically yes, you do. And in doing so, basically, what's funny though is that when you beat the game, you get a chainsaw and a jackhammer, and I honestly shocked myself because like the last thing I want to do is speedrun an emotional atmospheric horror game. That just does not make any sense to me, and it's just not, frankly, a proper thing to do. But sure enough, when I went back into the game and said, okay, I'm going to speedrun this, I did it in an amazingly fast time, to the point where I just shocked myself. As long as I know where to go and I wasn't soaking up the atmosphere, the game itself was much, much shorter and a much different experience. And because I was just looking to get to that objective to help, those characters and those objectives, it went a lot faster in general. And of course, I was able to get the real ending, and that was very, very much worth it. Getting the real good plus ending in this game is, I would say, mandatory. It is very, very, very interesting, and it also, opens up, this whole idea of multiple endings to Silent Hill games. So on that point, when I was finally faced with the final boss, this really weird glitch happened where basically Alyssa comes down, or whoever this, reincarnated angel demon thing, and I remember as she came down, I shot her with the rifle, and I'm not exactly sure what happened on my PS1, but the game like had a stack overflow and froze, and this giant screaming like static sound from the game was emitting from the TV, and it was totally frozen, and I was just sitting there in terror, as if because it was the first shot of the battle, and it's like my iniquity, how dare you try to strike down an angel? I shall close the entire game on you. It was a very strange, weird, surreal moment that I realized was not part of the game. That was a very, very cool memory and very funny. And after that, I'd never used the rifle on the final boss again. I just used my normal pistol and whatever, and I had to reload my last save and restart the system. But it was pretty spooky, pretty scary, if you know what I mean. It was actually, I also love that scene at the very end where Kaufman throws the Galapagos at the angel. That is just, I don't know, the fact it was in this cheesy slow motion, it just made it feel actually so epic. It was so cool. But yeah, Silent Hill innovated in a lot of very interesting, weird ways, and I just love this game for just existing. And it's funny that the people kind of know the series for the other games, but the first game really is almost like the best one in the series. I was really shocked at how good it was overall in general. That also brings me to, the other endings, where it's funny that apparently in every Silent Hill, at least up to a certain point, they always had a joke UFO ending, where the secret to all the weird things going on is just aliens. I can't help but feel like this is some kind of like X-Files themed thing, where just like Harry is taken by aliens to outer space, and that's just the explanation for all this weird stuff going on. I just find that to be such a funny thing for them to do, and it's so good. Anyway, the combat in this game typically tends to be very frustrating. Typically very hard. It's not really the main core of the game. It's the atmosphere. The atmosphere is insane in this game. It is insane. And the story and the lore and the characters are really what you're here for. And it's just very, very well done. Very cool. And a great start to a series. And I think that's all I have to say on this game for now. It's a very spooky, weird, interesting game, and I love it, and I wish more people played it in its original form. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say. See you later. Bye.